Hi, I'm Mike, and I like to make videos about Salesforce. In this video, I'm going to revisit the Apex open source utility provided by TruSummit Solutions for making a connection to the Google Maps API to retrieve a distance matrix. I'm going to show you this Apex utility in action in an org. Let's just make it easy. We'll just jump right into the org and see what we've got. I'm looking at an account in my developer org. This is Express Logistics and Transport. If you have a developer org, you probably have this account in your org as well. Not a whole lot going on here. It's pretty much just sample data, but there is something that I do want to point out. I did create a custom object. It's really just a junction object that allows me to create a relationship between two accounts. Just for my own purposes here to demonstrate this use case. So I've got an object called nearby accounts, and it basically allows me to create relationships with my subject account, which is the account that I'm looking at, with what I've identified as close accounts. And that's kind of a loose term here, really, because these accounts are existing examples of data. They're not really that close, so I've just identified them as close accounts. But what we're going to do is we're going to use this relationship between Express Logistics and Transport and these close accounts, Grand Hotels and Edge Communications, and see if we can calculate some drive time distances and some drive time durations on the fly using our Apex utility. So let me show you what that's going to look like. The work is already done, and what I'm going to do is just step you through the implementation. I've got this Nearby tab, and it has a custom component. The Nearby tab, when I click on it, does a little bit of work, and then it comes back with some distance details. It's showing me that Edge Communications is located in Austin, Texas, that it has a distance from Express Logistics of over 2,000 miles, and that the duration, if we were to drive, is 1 day and 7 hours. So Grand Hotels and Resorts is located in Chicago, Illinois. That distance from Express Logistics is 2,123 miles, and again, that duration is also 1 day and approximately 7 hours to get there. So I guess I probably could have picked some examples that were a little bit closer, but just for the purposes of this demo, I think it's going to be okay. We'll just go ahead and proceed. Let me show you what's going on in this actual component. We'll just jump ahead and take a look at some code. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is the component that I've created. It's very, very simple. You don't need to see this. This is really just showing you that this is a simple Lightning Web component that is specified for a record page, specifically the account record page. The output is pretty simple stuff. If the component is busy, then it's going to show a spinner, and if it's not busy, then it's going to show us a data table. And you saw that data table. I'll jump right back over to my screen and show you this is the data table that we're referring to there. So let me jump back into the code. Okay, and this is the JavaScript controller in the component. Pretty simple. It's pulling in a reference to an Apex controller, which I'll show you. We're setting a handful of properties. We're going to go ahead and initialize the column details for that data table. And then on connected callback, so when this component is loaded, it's going to retrieve the nearby accounts, and we're expecting that the nearby accounts are going to be enriched with location data, distance data, and so forth. So let's take a look at that Apex controller. That's where the heavy lifting is happening. So this method that's annotated with Aura enabled, get nearby accounts, this is what the component is calling. It's going to send in the record ID. That record ID represents the account ID of Express Logistics. So I'm just very simply preparing to initialize my destinations. I initialize my origin by simply, I'll go into this method and show you what that's doing. It's pretty straightforward. The get origin by ID takes the account ID. It queries the interesting details that we need on the account, specifically the street, city, state, and it formats a Google Maps address. That's one of the TruSummit Solutions Google Maps inner classes that help us to format our requests. So we just simply indicate that we've got a street, city, and a state. We hardcode USA, and then we return that as a list of Google Maps addresses. We know that we're only working with a single origin, but we're going to make use of the getDistanceMatrix method that expects a collection for both origins and destinations. So let me scroll back up. Now that we've got our origin and we've got our destinations container initialized, we query for nearby accounts. The expectation is that we're going to get those two records that we saw in the org. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to format those destinations also as Google Maps addresses, specifying the street, the city, and the state. And then we add those to our collections of destinations. From there, We very simply make an invocation to get distance matrix. We specify our origins and we specify our destinations, and that gives us a distance matrix in response. So we're not having to worry about our API key. We're not having to worry about formatting a callout. All that work is already done because we're leveraging this open source Apex utility. All that's left for us to do is to format the response. To keep this method nice and clean, we format that response in a separate method called format response. So let me explain what's going on here on line 34 here in format response. We want to get the matrix elements for our origin. We understand, we know that we're working with a single origin, which means we are only going to have a single row in the response that we get back from the distance matrix. So we know because of that we can just go ahead and get a handle on the rows element and get the first group of elements that are represented as a list. And then we can iterate over those elements so that we can build our formatted response. And we're simply just outputting some of the properties that we want into a map. The map is parameterized as a string of objects, although we're really just working with strings here. Pretty simple stuff. So once we get our collection of maps that represent our outputs for each of our 2 destinations, we simply output that response back to our component, and our component consumes it and gets the output that you see here. And that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward. It's not really rocket science. The whole gist of this open source utility is we're trying to make it easier for you to make a connection to the API without having to worry about formatting the callout and doing all of that. It eliminates your need to not only format the request and do that callout, but it also eliminates the need for you to have to worry about writing unit tests related to that callout, mocking, and all the things that come with it. It's certainly not rocket science. It's just a little bit of a way to kind of push you across the finish line a little bit faster. It's also going to give you a little bit of an edge as far as formatting the response, right? There's a little bit less overhead in having to format the JSON and parse it all out. It's going to instead give you this already normalized response with a variety of lists that you can iterate over. And then, like you saw, if you know what your payload is going to be like when you come back, if you're making a single origin to multiple destinations, you know that you're only going to have one row, and you can reach in and grab that row, iterate over those matrix elements, and handle it that way. Check back soon. We expect that we're going to extend this open source utility and provide additional features in the future. If you found this video helpful, or if you think that this utility might work in one of your implementations in the future, please let me know by leaving a like on the video, or let me know by leaving a comment below the description on your screen. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.